Today, our class is on Vimalakirti Sutra. Next week, the schedule is similar to this week, which is Monday and Tuesday is Vimalakirti Sutra, Monday and Tuesday. And then we'll have 2 more classes, I think, or in total 4 classes of the Vimalakirti Sutra, and then we will finish this sutra. And after that, I think the classes that's left in this text is not going to take too many classes. And I'm hoping to finish it in August. From September onwards, I'm not quite sure about Monday and Tuesday yet. But on Wednesday, I will then I will start teach a new class on. It's really wonderful that you would clap your hands, but are you going to listen and attend this class? I'm not entirely sure. I really hope that you could persevere rather than give me claps. So we'll start the Surangama Sutra on Wednesday. Thursday and Friday we'll have the classes as usual of Uddhara Tantra Shastra, and Saturday we'll have the Analects of Confucius on Saturday, and we'll see about other classes. Anyhow, in August, I'm hoping to finish this sutra within 4 classes. And I hope that you could prepare your textbooks accordingly. The Surangama Sutra, are we currently printing it? And Confucius of Analects of Confucius, that's another text that you should have the textbook of. In the second half of the year, it seems that I'm not going to go anywhere, and I hope to give as much teaching as possible, because it's very difficult to say whether I will have such opportunity to give teachings over here, because life is impermanent, same as the causes and conditions. They're also very impermanent. Therefore, we should all be very much prepared for the good and the bad conditions. Another thing I would like to address is towards the BSA, the Buddhist Studies Association. So you should also make your plans accordingly. I think making plans is so very important. In any circumstances, we should make preparation, because we, in fact, worked very hard to build the centers and created opportunities and platforms to provide service and provide skillful means to spread the teachings of the Dharma. But other than that, as long as you can maintain the stability of this platform, let me myself be dead or alive, then you will still be having the opportunity of studying the Dharma. Therefore, I am trying to say that we all should have future plans for the studying of Dharma. In fact, not only each one of us should have future plans. The BSA, our association, should have future plans. For any kind of mature corporation or organizations, they all have future plans. And to have future plans is extremely important for the growth and future maintenance, for the survival of for the association. Therefore, I really hope to then teach as much as possible because life is impermanent, and I really want to teach as much as possible and as fast as possible.
Telan Chimbo Kiva Kanyan Medo, Meba, Zamba Shariba, Division the Chutam Chin Chimbo Major, Kiamet, Chief Shir the Testa Kutkan in Chimbo Jan, the Stia Nyam the Sema, Zamba Shariba. Kangar Jamam Kanji Kiva Mitam, Kipate, Kutkan in Chimbo, the Understi Gina, Tilan the Chirkachir Surchin, Chichirkachin Div. Meba Riki Churvalayan Chimpoyan Meter, Kivayan Mednati, Chizig Landonor, Meba, Zambashari, Chutam Jen of Churi Ranjan, Division Shop in Mauson. Meba Riki, the division or Meba, Zambashari, Chutam Cheddar, Churi Ranjan. Stavan, Chief Shernakunder, Terniam the Cute Kali, Shimpo Tender, Kiev Niam the Sema, Zambashari, Chimpo Jip Shavanam Gumber. Dushibin Sanya do Jazib Shavanangam Gumber Dushibin Sanya Gino, the Elif Jans of San Juan Chimpoa Congo gave some Gumber and Duship as a Machedo, the Kiam gave it Genum, Jerry Machedo, then it joined the Kitsit on the Basharival under Kijika Sardo, Sharivari Givandono, Jitin Jikam Gumber Gavana, the John Shabaman Triba. Under Manchuba Tone and Dragon of Soro, Jondan de Kivadan San Gijan, the Zamder number Tabat, Che de San Gijan, Umbamobotuna, Chavapa, Gumber Gavana, Gum Sardo, Tini, Lozamba Chamame Petroper Meba, Shariba, and the Nyam the Nyami with the Namnam and Badon Hanjik and Rosum. Meba then Mayano, Rigiva Teni, Mandrosam. Meba Rigiva, Terni, Mandrote, Yamir Kirkor Sharma Tata, Yamamba Tamjia, Meberangeru, Meba, Chief Jernanza, Yolanda Nima, and Cher Meba, Tenor Navanjera, Service, Ro, Zamba, Meba, Zamba Shariva, Division of Jans of San the same Jernamions of Javadan, Easy no Javata, Mamba, Chimbo Service, Shirt of Samjan, the Santi Jan, Yonsamata, Banam Saki, Nima Namdan Hanchik Maneba, Samjan Tamji. Nyomo Mambaya, number of Serto, ten in Koro, Teto Tamji Janji, Kamumber, Gava, Division Shoba, Manjuba, Don Chances and what Teto Yan to Jimbo, Teton, Dachakata, Kim the Kumber, Gerdo, then it joined in the Jinkurte, Tamche, Jan, Semji Toba, Tikin, Luzambachama, Mibetobal and Derkichi. Guazzardo, Rigiva, Corondano, Jitinji, Kam, Gumber Gava, Division of Shoba, Manjubatim, Donando, Jim, Korote, Lion, Chuchi. Stone Jig, Teni Luzamba Chamajo, Chamame Betobin, Donyam, the same day, the Sanki Chundale Malon Varan, Jitinji Kamumber Gavate, Shanchu Sanwa Yatung Tomadan, Ladon, Lodon, Nojan Chazadon, Hamain Bakor, Kori, Rip Korvadan, Chebadan, Babchedan, Zigadon, Chemadan, Sodan, Jamso, Goba, Don Chebadan, Rarabdan, Rondan, Tigadon, Rumbor. Bogur, Chebadan, Tavadan, Yamadan, Karmadan, Chebadan, Ladon, Lodon, Nojandan, Trizi, Nis, Chebadan, Tampion, Nedan, Cordo, Chebadan, Jondan, Jontirdan, Jonderdan, Jondan, Yunkoradan, Mupchebadan, Medan, Kimda, Chebadan, Chanchusan, Hora, Chebadan, Yang Tukin, Cordon, Chebadan, Division, Shoba Manchuk, Bishanship, Jishan, Jondan, Division, Shoba Manchuk Bayan, Kor Yamzo, Nana Yang, Jishan, Chun Chabadan, Kanyang. Padama, Kanto, George, Semjan, Namian, Santi, James Apache, Pato, Don, Rumbo Cherki, some Zami, Alani, Sem, some church, some Gioni, Givardam, Gumbram, Habirki, De Semjan, some church, some Bell, Namdetation Shop, Manjuba, Tavadan, Chuk Shavadan, Nimker Shavadon, Churnam Yambi Shirdan, London Babadan. Zami olan gamar namna samchir tsaksam dilhar namna tabi shirda samchir tsaksam da ne san zakbar sheba te tabi yondan tsame banjik tenji kam gambar gawa ti chi pombo ne zon te gongman diyo ne givar da zam kanjin kordo janda nyinse var chata te loba yebe longne me tokam changwa janda tokden jik tenji kam mamje bandar chi ko chigni kyang korda tamchil lap tambar jesu teni la zamba chamami be chokben dor tabi tangen zanlar nyumbar jignen do nyamda zamchir ngombar ndor ngombar she te jikten jikam ngombar gawa te na nyinse wa chat ne lagpe ye pe lang den jikten jikam mamje par ndor che ko teni nyanto dang shanchu sanwa dang la dang ma kang le mu ngombar she ba ru to ba te da ter ke ji go ba dang jon den de da chang tsar to de rak shab ba da Devrak shakpa dakchang tsarto, devshang shakpe dakchak kyamzo chikchi soradang, darvi tonda chondan deki tedag layang darkaji. Kap tsarto, shangchu zangwa chama mipa chakpayan da, na ki ngi yirmaya no, chama chakpa mipa ti kierwa ti na ngi yirmaya no. Tina latang mar namnang zhantak ki, kyang dakchak karan kierwa mashi zo mam tongo, jikten ji kam gombar gawa tena, jikten ji kam jitba. Ndarab chigi kyang jikten ji kam da kangwa gam, zhabar yang mamngon to, tokchang cherwa gam me, to, tokchang cherwa gam me tong jikten ji kam gombar gawa te. Zhabar yang me te rungun chirtaab zhanda chi kyang te zhanda rnao, teni zhondan de shigya tabin kur te tak tamchil labka tsarwa, kiye chobo tak jikten ji kam gombar gawa. Te zhang shigba manchik badang, sanji ji zhang ko badang, nyang to ji ko badang, zhangzu zangwi ko badang, dadak laf to shig, te tak sorab zhondan de. Jordan den Tonga Lak So Ka Tsarwa Santi Jijang Jawa Yongsub Zongron Do Bishan Chu Zangwa Dena Devjang Shaba Manchik Bishan Chu Zangwa Kyatba Tamchilar Jisab Labar Shao Dena Jikten Jikam Gombar Gawana Tambir Zamchir Ji Chum Chir Dang Devjang Shaba Manchik Be Tambir Jikten Jikam Mamje Bandol Hadang Mi Jie Ge Le Chab Chab Jib Chab Lana Mi Ba Chab Chab Jib Chab Lana Chab 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 Jib Chab 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 Jib Chab Chab Jib Chub chub jib jib lana mi bayang dakbar zogbar shang chib da sim kye so kanji kyang jik tenji kam gombar gawa ter kyewar molam tar te chumdan diji kyang te tamchi jang jik tenji kam gombar gawa ter kyewa long tando teni la zamba chama mi be chobben jik tenji kam mamji bandar semchen yong sar mambar chewi shirdi jirni bade dok tamchir mambar she ne jik tenji kam gombar gawa ter lat chirta jando joko teni chumdan di tsedang damba shari yolandar kaji Kapsar to shariwa kyojin jikten jikam gombar gawa te dang devjang shakpa manchik ba tem tongam sorwa chomdan de dakam tonglak so semchen tamchi jang san jiji jangab goba tertra tenzir gyar chig semchen tamchi jang rikji bal zambe chumami ba chakpa tawa tenzi zamchir dang dambar gyar chig dak jang kyewa tamba ndir tabam tongwa to ba nar nipa lak ba lak te gang na thana tartar ji devjang shakpa gam yongsam nyingalin debi chujir namchanda tubi semchen tedag jang nipa rabda niparan gyar ne gang tak tuni muba dang yi cheba dang zamba dang jangwa dang lukba dang shang chebar jiba dang muba nish tumba dang rabda tumba dang zyantak layang cheba dang gombir namchir ji so jorwa nam lastar mujang jansar chujir namchanda gang tak sikbar toba tedag jang chu rinpoche khtir niparan gyar do gang tak chujir namchanda kadon do jiba tedag jang devjang shakpa Chuksa ngirwa lagso, gangtak chundala mubar nam rimzhodang nyamkar giba tena chu yang takbar chungwa lagso, gangtak chujir namzhanda lagbar jiba chiden changwa dang ramur giba tetak kimna devjang shakbab jikbar gir to, gangtak chujir namzhanda la jisi yirangwa tetak nab sunum tamchid yongso zongwa lagso, gangtak chujir namzhanda tana tsik zhivi tsik zibchabak chik tsam tang, dombi tsik tsam yang, zyantak la tomba tena chuji yin chenpo gipa lagso yin chenpo gipa lagso gang daga chuji namchang dalab zoba dang damba dang lo chu dang stokpa dang stawa dang muba dagna te dagda long damba lagso jitin ji kam gombar gawa dang tebjang shakpa manchik ba tambi legar te legar chik chik ba go今天讲这么多
That's how much we're going to learn today. So let's start Vimalakirti Sutra. Yesterday, we talked about how Vimalakirti described the Dharmakaya aspect of Buddha and described the birthlessness and ceaselessness of Akshobhya Buddha. And yesterday I didn't make the note that Shariputra that in fact know that Vimalakirti is really great, and then he turned to the Buddha and asked the Buddha. In our edition, in fact, it is not included, but in other editions, it is included. In this edition, it asks then, where does Vimalakirti come from? Where did he die to become reborn here? And then the Buddha didn't respond to him. In fact, when the Buddha responds to a question, he needs to respond to a question with the correct conditions. Therefore, he asked the Shariputra to directly ask that question from Vimalakirti. So at that time, Shariputra asked Vimalakirti and said that, where did you die to become born here? Or which world did you die to become born in this world? So yesterday we stopped there. And then today let's continue with the next part. It then started first with Vimalakirti responding to Shariputra's question. And he did not respond directly. Vimalakirti just finished talking about the birthlessness and deathlessness of Dharmakaya. And when Shariputra asked him this question, then Vimalakirti just finished talking about the Dharmakaya aspect. How could he turn right away to talk about his body's death and birth? Also, as a bodhisattva, he, in fact, the way that he responded to the Shravakas, he then responded in the way saying that the Buddha's body is birthlessness and deathlessness. And not only that, the Bodhisattva's body is also birthless and deathless. So that's what he was responding to, what he responded to Shariputra. So he didn't really respond directly to that, where I died and why or how I reborn here. Anyhow, so this is the progress or the process of Vimalakirti and replying to Shariputra. I think this part is quite interesting, especially for those of you who have lots of faith in Buddhism, in the Buddhism doctrine. But for the ones who do not have lots of faith, who do not have a devoted understanding to Buddhism, you probably don't feel much. Vimalakirti Vimalakirti over here then responded to Shariputra saying that, are there death and birth in the dharmas as you apprehend, or as an arhat, that how you attain the dharma? Are there death and birth? So instead of responding directly, Vimalakirti asked a question to Shariputra instead. So the dharma that you attain, or in your realization, are there birth and death? And then Shariputra said, oh, there are no death and birth in the dharma. As an arhat, then Shariputra, of course, attained the birthlessness and deathlessness, because as arhat, Shariputra had already attained the selfless nature of self. And birth and death are just a continuum of out of no reliant on condition. So Shariputra then answered over here saying that there are no death and birth very clearly. And then Vimalakirti said then, well, if the Dharma are without the characteristic of birth and death, then why do you ask, where did you die to become born here? What do you mean? This is like a debate of great logic. Since you have already attained the birthlessness and deathlessness of the Dharma, then why do you ask? Are you asking this on purpose? This is such a redundant question. If you already attained birthlessness and deathlessness, I am also part of the Dharma. Then what do you mean? Why do you think in such a way? Asked by Vimalakirti. And he continued to ask, saying that it is as if a magician conjured up a man and a woman with his magic. Do they die and become born? If all dharmas are without birth and death, then why would you ask me, where did I die to be reborn here? Okay, so if you can't answer that question, then answer this one. If a magician conjured up a man and a woman, and do these two die and born? Just as in a movie, there's a man and a woman in the movie. Do they die and be reborn in that movie? If the man or woman that is conjured up by a magician has birth, then who are their parents? So that's a question asked by Vimalakirti. And then Shariputra answered, as Shravaka, the wisdom is not really compatible to the wisdom of Vimalakirti, and I guess Shariputra must be really embarrassed right now. Shariputra then said, they do not die and do not become born. And then Vimalakirti over here says, again, in fact, according to the Taisho Tripitaka, the punctuations are a bit different, but this is said by Vimalakirti compared to our current Chinese version. Over here, the Vimalakirti continuously to point out, saying that, but can you not have heard the Buddha explain that the Dharma are like 100 characteristics? Aren't you the foremost of listening and contemplating the Dharma? If all dharmas are like illusory and are like dreams, then how could you say that there is birth and death? Oh, the baby is suffering so much. So Vimalakirti said that, but can you not have heard the Buddha explain that the Dharma are like 100 characteristics, are like dreams and like illusions? That's another question posed by Vimalakirti. Then Vimalakirti answered, saying that, so I have. That is true. He said, yes, I have. I had. Vimalakirti then said, if all the dharmas are like conjured characteristics, since Buddha said that all phenomena or dharmas are like dreams and like illusions, and Shariputra agreed with that statement. And the conjured man and woman are also birthless and deathless. Right away, he turned into the ultimate view, talking about birthlessness and deathlessness. In fact, Vimalakirti sharply pointed out lots of the questions that is very sensitive to Westerners. I think the Easterners are very comfortable of asking, such as, how much do you earn? What's your salary? How old are you? And where do you work? Are you rich? Lots of questions are rather very sensitive and should not be asked, are often asked by the Easterners. Therefore, over here, maybe Vimalakirti is not so familiar with the kind of costumes and the sense of privacy in terms of asking questions. So Vimalakirti then posed the questions, or really sharp questions, again and again. I think the way the Westerners and Easterners asking questions are very different. If Westerners want to pose a question, then they would ask around to lead to their question. If the Easterner asks the Westerner, how old are you? The Westerner would very skillfully turn around and say, what do you think? So anyhow, they would just kind of ask the question around to dive away from the actual answers. Anyhow, over here, Vimalakirti used the same skillful means, saying that, what do you think? And then Shariputra, as a Shravaka, is rather quite straightforward. Whatever he thinks, he would just speak it out. I think the Asians really enjoy asking different questions. Oh, so you work over here? How much do you earn? What's your salary? So that's the first thing they would ask. Many people feel that's such a privacy. That's none of your business. So Shariputra also posed this question very directly. Rather, Vimalakirti posed this question very directly to ask Shariputra. Vimalakirti then said, well, since you agree with me that all the dharmas are illusory-like or dream-like, then why did you ask me, where did you born and where did you die? You've already known that there's no birth and death, as the Buddha said, and as you attained this yourself. So why do you ask me such a redundant question? Why would you pose such question at all? And then Vimalakirti continued to ask or say that it's not that Shariputra need to know it, but he's just answering it, saying that Shariputra, death is a characteristic of destruction of false dharma, and birth is the characteristic of continuity of false dharma. When you use your wisdom to investigate the nature of it, then, for example, you have the form of a body, of a human body, and then when such a body decays, you may be reborn in celestial realm or other places. But the sense of death is a false delusion, a false dharma. It is not real. Just as the banana tree that doesn't have an intrinsic solid trunk that you can find after peeling off the banana leaves. After you then investigate, you'll be able to see that there is no death because the mind stream will continuously will continue. As a bodhisattva, where does he die, and where did he die, and where did he born? So when or where did he experience such decay? And how did that mind stream continue and to then continue to prolong? That's a characteristic of continuity. So there's a characteristic of decay and there's a characteristic of continuity. Although bodhisattvas die, they do not exhaust their roots of goodness. See, bodhisattvas, through first to 10th bhumi, through the whole stages, all the death that they experience, it's not like how the materialistic or existentialism, they would say that once you die, all the previous virtuous deeds and vicious deeds that you've done would just go into blank or just completely disappear. It's not like that at all. Over here, Vimalakirti indirectly saying that although he is a bodhisattva, he experienced this characteristic of decay, and then his good roots did not decay, but his goodness did not exhaust. All the good roots did not exhaust. So all the good roots, such as the patience and all the kind of good roots that you cultivate, all the moralities and virtues, as mundane beings. When our body decay and when the mind continuum carries on to the next life, maybe such virtuous deeds will wane, and then some of the vicious deeds will mature. You never know. But for bodhisattvas, they do not exhaust their roots of goodness even through such kind of process and continuity. Master Huiyuan said that over here, Vimalakirti is explained through the highest level of realization. Vimalakirti over here, his role is much higher than Shravakas and even the Buddha. So over here, it seems that Vimalakirti is a lay practitioner. He is only a lay practitioner, but he is not a common practitioner, a lay practitioner. He is very unusual. He has a very high level of realization. When it comes to rather very shallow discussions or very mundane discussions, and he's not really interested. Just like how some of the masters, Dharma masters over here, when it is their turn to teach the Dharma, they're so enthusiastic. But when it comes to the time that they need to study management or how to work within a group and so on, they just then would say that, oh, they're ill and they don't want to attend the classes and so on. So when it comes to trivial talks, Vimalakirti doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Unlike us, when it comes to trivial talks, we will get really excited. In different places, such as schools and so on, lots of teachers, they would then directly talk about their professions and so on. When it comes to management and when it comes to the trivial aspect of running a school, they're not interested at all. But in the sutra, in fact, this is quite profound. Some of the Shravakas and Bodhisattvas even, they do not understand such a level of insight, but Vimalakirti does. Even when people came to see him, all the Shravakas and the Bodhisattvas came to see him and inquire about his illness, he knew what their thinkings are and so on. So his level of realization is really profound. Shravaka over here, such as Shariputra, is just like the mundane beings, that all of us do not understand lots of the profound teachings in the Dharma, as well as there's a lack of skillful means. Then the Buddha told Shariputra, saying that there is a country called Wondrous Joy, or Abhirati. So the Buddha told Shariputra about this pure land of Abhirati. So he started saying to Shariputra, maybe you didn't get it, but let me tell you more. In fact, Vimalakirti, I know him very well. He came from this pure land from the east of the name called Wondrous Joy, or Abhirati. And over there, there is a Buddha that is teaching over there. His name is Akshobhya, the Buddha of immovable. And in that pure land, in front of that Buddha, Vimalakirti was the great bodhisattva, was one of the greatest bodhisattva in Abhirati. So Buddha said that very directly. In the previous chapters, we've already talked about how Vimalakirti's name is also Jinsu Tathagata, which means golden corn Tathagata. And he came to this world to benefit sentient beings, but they didn't really talk too much about the history. Over here, the Buddha then told Shariputra by himself, saying that, oh, Vimalakirti was a great bodhisattva, came from the east pure land that is called Abhirati. And Shariputra said, this is unprecedented. This is wonderful. I've heard that this Abhirati pure land is really pure, is really beautiful. But why would Vimalakirti forsake such a pure land and then come to take pleasure in this place where it's so defiled and full of anger, aggression, and ignorance and desire, and so chaotic and so disharmonious and full of arguments? Why? So Shariputra at that time was in awe and said, this is unprecedented. I heard that world was the absolute beautiful pure land. Just as some of the Tibetan teachers, once they heard the description of other places, and when they heard that someone came from a beautiful city, and the Tibetan teacher would say, why would you come here? Because from where you come from, you get a high salary, you are close to your home, and the city is beautiful, the livelihood is very easy. Then why do you come here? I think nowadays it gets better, but previously, when our program just started of asking teachers from other places to teach in the rural area, the teachers were really in awe and very much surprised, and they thought, why would you even come here? What are you seeking for? So they didn't really understand, just as Shariputra, who did not understand why Vimalakirti forsake such a pure land to come to this defiled place.
然后这个时候呢，就是刚才那个佛跟那个就是什么舍利弗之间的一个对话嘛，就是这个时候。
So that was the conversation between the Buddha and Shariputra.
他有点不高兴啊，是不知道是。
And Vimalakirti at that time maybe felt a little bit upset. Vimalakirti then said to Shariputra, saying that, "What do you think? When the sunlight appears, is it conjoined with darkness? Is light mixed with darkness?" Then Shariputra said, "No. When the sunlight appears, the darkness disappears." He's probably still befuddled, thinking, "Why are you asking me such a question?" And then Vimalakirti said, "Why does the sun come to Jambudvipa? Why does the sun shines light on our world, Jambudvipa? Why does light come into this world, that is Jambudvipa, with the great light?" And then Shariputra answered, "Oh, that I know. Because the sun come here for the goal to illuminate this world, to brighten this world, to illuminate the whole earth and all the beings and all the beings that's sentient and insentient. And then also the sun come for another goal, that is to eliminate the darkness." And then Vimalakirti said very forthright, saying that Bodhisattvas are like this too. This is quite important to remember, saying that even though they're born in impure Buddha lands, in fact, they came here to benefit sentient beings, and that's their mission. So Vimalakirti is saying that, "I did not come here for no reason." So he's using the metaphor of the sun to describe himself as well. They are not therefore conjoined with the darkness of stupidity, because they came from the impure. They came to the impure Buddha lands in order to liberate sentient beings. This is quite important. We had all aspired for bodhicitta to liberate sentient beings and on this Mahayana path. Therefore, we should not just dwell in our comfortable zone. Let's look at Vimalakirti, who then really stepped out of the comfort zone. He lived in a pure land, and he came voluntarily to this impure land. Just as the sun illuminates the earth and the world with a goal, similarly, bodhisattvas came to this world to illuminate the ignorance of sentient beings. So we should then make the aspiration to liberate beings with great ignorance are still covered in darkness, where there's no dharma, where there's no truth. But when you go there, are those ignorance and stupidity and anger and all of those defilements to tint you? It is not going to, because as a Mahayana practitioner, you're just like the sun, which then would illuminate the sentient beings and not conjoined with the darkness of stupidity of sentient beings. According to the Sutra of Prajnaparamita that reveals the truth, It says that one experiences birth and death, but is never stained by worldly dharmas. This is like the beautiful colors of lotus flower. They are never stained by dust and dirt.
就是这样的这种就是诸位的话，那就是可能。
We've already made the aspiration of benefiting others and making the Mahayana aspiration. And we're here to make to carry out our mission. I think nowadays lots of people had only a sole goal, that is to make money, to make a better livelihood.
跟这个可能说的难听一点的话呢，就是跟这个动物的这种观念呢，就是价值观呢，就是没有很大的差别。就这是你
if to live a better world is the only thing that you live or live for your family members, then to be forthright, you're really not much of a difference than the animals, who also seeks for happiness in such a way or comfort in such a way. I understand that we cannot transform ourselves into the sun or the moon to illuminate the whole world, but at least can we make the aspiration to be a small lamp that could illuminate all the people around us, or a small group of people around us? Sometimes I worry about the practitioners who study in our association, because after years and years of study, they did not transform. They would say that I am so and so, I study in so and so association, I am a disciple of so and so Lama. Yes, they may be studying, or maybe they call themselves as Buddhist, but such wisdom, compassion did not then blend or be one with their mind. Their actions, their speech, and their mind are still so far away from the Dharma. And their action and speech and Dharma and mind not only did not illuminate others, rather it darkens all the people around them. Sometimes I ponder, why did lots of people who study in our association got worse and worse by years of studying? And to such people, I have to suggest that, well, maybe it's the best for you to not attend our association. By noticing your retrogress after year and year, then it's very disheartening. Last few weeks, I went to Yushui region, and he was mumbling, and he mumbled saying that we are getting better every year. But I think for lots of practitioners, not only they're not better and better every year, they are worse and worse year by year. They blame others. They bring lots of negative energy to the group. They utilize our platform for self-benefits. In fact, our platform is purely dedicated to the study, contemplation, and practice. I myself, I had never used the platform of the association to gain any benefit for myself. But there are people in this association, they do not engage in genuine practice of the Dharma, yet they brought lots of darkness and anxiety, and they make this group more complex than simply doing what it is for. On one hand, I understand that people say if the forest is large enough, you see all kinds of birds. Similarly, if the organization got bigger, then you see all kinds of people. In Tibetan, we say that if there's one person who break the vow within the Sangha, then all the Sangha is then in the danger of breaking vows just as that one. Similarly, if there's one person in the whole city or whole region that has great aspiration and pure inspiration to help people to practice the Dharma, then that region will slowly prosperous in terms of Dharma. And vice versa, if there is one person in this region that is very detrimental in terms of their aspiration and or very selfish in their aspiration, then it could endanger the whole group in that region. We may not come here with the aspiration of bringing luminosity or bringing a sense of brightness and happiness, but at least you should get along with others and do not destroy the platform or the community that was built up with lots of hard work. So I advise you not to create negative karma by destroying this kind of platform that was built very difficult and which I invested a lot of hard work. Last night I had a meeting till very late. Many people said that I want to resign. I want to retire. And then I said, well, if you want to resign and retire, maybe I should get resigned and retired as well. But after my convincing, they in fact continued. They wanted to continue to volunteer in on their post. So I hope people who have the right intention, the right aspiration to join our group, to then illuminate our community and not to burden only one or two people inside the group, and definitely not to join our community with a harmful intention. Nowadays, this is the kind of degenerated time that it is easy to commit. It is easy to commit the harmful things and create a bad karma, but it's very difficult to practice good karma and good virtuous actions. This is the degenerated age. So I really encourage all of you to contemplate this passage and think twice before you blame others, before you make any complaints, before you create any kind of disharmony within the community. Without a practice, it is the mindset would be very different. Recently, I met a group of lay practitioners. All they think of is to then propagate the truth to everyone to benefit the people over there, and there are people who does exactly the opposite. Anyhow, I really wanted to point out that Vimalakirti came here for the sole purpose to help and liberate sentient beings. So, as a lay practitioner or a monastic, especially monastics, do not just think for yourself. Think that, oh, I want to find a good center to practice. I want to build a good retreat house to practice and not to benefit others. Sometimes I feel that my generation had done our best, and it is really your turn to take up the responsibility to benefit others. I've already worked for a few decades to propagate the truth. And life is different. Life is impermanent. You never know when life will end. So as a next generation, can you bring influence? Can you bring such liberation to others? This is something that you really need to contemplate. Are you ready to take up such responsibility? Because without you taking up responsibilities, then no one else will. And the happiness and liberation of sentient beings will be very far-fetched. Over here it explains why Vimalakirti came here. He came here with the sense of mission to bring illuminating bright lights of the sun, of the wisdom and compassion to the sentient beings, to dispel the darkness of ignorance, suffering, and afflictions. That's the responsibilities of Bodhisattva. And then, after speaking of this, the great congregation at that time all eagerly wanted to see Wondrous Joy world, the Abhirati, and the Buddha over there, that is Akshobhya Buddha, as well as the congregation of Bodhisattvas and Shravakas. So knowing this, knowing what the entire assembly was thinking, the Buddha then told Vimalakirti. Over here, in fact, in order to show the Vimalakirti's unusual power of penetration, then the Buddha asked Vimalakirti, or told Vimalakirti, saying that can you then invite the whole world over here? Although his name is Akshobhya, which means immovable Buddha, then maybe the Buddha of immovability need to move a bit. In India, there was a Dharma Raja, or the king of Dharma, His Holiness, His Holiness that who sleeps, because he practices dream yoga, and they would say that the sleep Dharma Raja need to get up to see me. Over here, Buddha told Vimalakirti, saying that, well, on behalf of the assembly, manifest the Wondrous Joy world, Akshobhya Buddha, and all the Shravakas. And Vimalakirti then thought to himself, then lasso, which means okay, I'll think about it. So Vimalakirti at that time then thought to himself first, thinking that without getting up from my seat, I should lift the Wondrous Joy world, the Abhirati. In fact, I think Abhirati is very similar to our world. Let's look at the description that follows, because in this world it includes iron rain, mountains, streams, rivers, oceans, springs, Mount Sumeru and other mountains, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and then the palaces of gods, dragons, demonic spirits, and Brahma gods, as well as then that is very similar to what we have in our world. Also, it's the congregations of Bodhisattvas and Shravakas. So this world also has cities, towns, villages, men, women, adults, and children. And even Akshobhya Tathagata with his Bodhi tree and its wondrous lotus flowers. The Tathagata and his Bodhisattvas and Shravakas are performing the Buddha work to then benefit sentient beings throughout the 10 directions. Over there, it has 3 jewel-made staircases. Over here it says that there are 3 jeweled stairways from Jambudvipa. Over here, Jambudvipa does not mean our world. It, in fact, is Jambudvipa, the world. And that's what it means. Jambudvipa is the world. And we are the south Jambudvipa, which means the south world. And over here it talks about the 3 jewel stairs from their world to Shita heaven. And gods descend these jeweled staircases, just as when the Buddha Shakyamuni went to Shita heaven to give teachings, and he then went and came down from the staircase. So just like that, the gods and the celestial beings would then came down from the staircase and then worship and offer and listen to the Dharma teachings of Akshobhya Buddha. The people of Jambudvipa also would climb those staircases, ascending to Shita heaven to see the beautiful gardens and the celestial beings. So in that world, it's like that. Also, the wondrous joy world is composed of such immeasurable merits. From Akanishta heaven. Akanishta heaven is the highest heaven of the desire realm. That is above the water limit. That is the disk of water. In Abhidharma, there's the talk of disk of water, disk of wind, and disk of Vajra earth. So it's all the way to the heaven and all the way down to the water, disk of water. So from the highest to the lowest. And then Vimalakirti thought, I will grasp it in my right hand. Over here, grasp means fetch or grab. Directly grab it. Just as a potter would easily take the wheel or easily then turns the wheel, just like that. Or bringing it, just like bringing the whole world into his hand, just like a flower garland. So that's what he was planning. And then he entered into samadhi and manifest the power of numinous transformation. With his right hand, he grasped the wondrous joy world and placed it in this land. In some translation, how they explained what grasp is that he grabbed it completely and fully, and immediately, including the whole land as well as the gods and humans and Akshobhya Buddha without even asking. And place the wondrous joy world to the Saha world. Those congregations of bodhisattvas and shravakas in the wondrous joy world, as well as other gods and humans who had attained numinous penetration, all then cried out for help, saying that, "Oh, world-honored one, Akshobhya Buddha, who is taking us away? Please save us." Just as when there's turbulence during flights, they probably felt some shaking halfway through, and therefore they felt that they were moved away. They felt that their world and they themselves are brought to somewhere else that's not their world. So they were panicking. But Akshobhya is immovable, saying that this is not my doing. This is being done through the numinous power of Vimalakirti. So he said, this is not what I am doing. That must be Vimalakirti that's doing it. The others, who had not attained numinous penetration, were unaware of where they were going. They had no idea that their world were transformed into Saha world. Just as when the world, just when during turbulence, and there are people who are sound asleep without noticing it at all. Sometimes when I woke up and look at the people around them, I would then fall back to sleep. So maybe the ones who are sleeping are the ones who did not attain numinous penetration. Although the whole world of Wondrous Joy entered this land, it did not expand or contract. This Saha world was not constricted, but unchanged from before. So all the materials and the sentient beings are transformed into the Saha world, but nothing changed. At the beginning, when we talked about how there were 32,000 lion seat was transformed into his house, as well as 90,000 bodhisattvas who came into his room. His room did not expand to be bigger, nor the lion seat to be smaller, nor the congregation got smaller. If our world or any of the dharmas has intrinsic existence, then that cannot happen. Just like, how could you fit the whole world into a small mirror? If the reflection in the mirror has something intrinsically existent, then you can't fit the whole world in the mirror. Yet, because it is not, therefore it could reflect such expanse. At that point, then Shakyamuni Buddha told the great congregation, saying that you may view the wondrous joy world, Akshobhya Buddha, and the ornamentations of that contrary the pure practices of bodhisattva and purity of the disciple. Unlike us, the disciples over here, sometimes they feel that, oh, I'm having a bad day. Oh, I'm having a good day. I'm not eating well. I'm eating really well, and I'm not healthy. So there are lots of turbulence, lots of ups and downs. They're not pure. But let's look at all the disciples who come from Wondrous Joy world. They're very pure. When we make such comparisons, then we'll be able to see the differences of the form, the appearance, the differences of their mood and mentality. Just as when you look at people, when you look at the Westerners and Easterners, when you look at the different disciples and so on, there are people who you sit with them, they are so much in suffering and affliction, and there are people who, just like the disciples who come from the Wondrous Joy world, they're very pure, they're very happy. And then everyone started saying that, yes, Shakyamuni Buddha, we see them. And then the Buddha said that bodhisattvas who wish to attain pure Buddha lands such as this should learn the path that has been practiced by Akshobhya Buddha. So the Buddha said that you should then practice the path that has been practiced by the Akshobhya Buddha. Then Wondrous Joy world was manifested 14 nayutas of people in the Saha world, generated the intention to achieve Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. In Tibetan translation, it says 140,000, and in other translations it goes all the way up to 1.4 billion and so on. Over here it talks about 14 nayutas of people. According to Tibetan version and Sanskrit version, it says 140,000. And they all made the aspiration to be reborn in Wondrous Joy Buddha land. In mainland China, there was a Zen master Li Yun. He practiced for 30 years, and then he gave up his practice of meditation and he changed his practice into chanting the mantra. And by switching his practice, he relaxed. And when he looked at a tree that's full of cherry blossoms, and right away he got enlightened. Sometimes when the conditions are matured, and even by simply glimpse it or looking at it, anything, then you will get enlightened, just as lots of sentient beings once by witnessing the Wondrous Joy world. A great number of people got enlightened at that time. And then the benefits in response of having Wondrous Joy world in this country was finished. As it returned to its original place, they came swiftly and disappeared swiftly. Just as lots of Buddha, sometimes there are Buddhas who would converse with the Buddha, sometimes maybe converse with Vimalakirti, but maybe not Vimalakirti, because Vimalakirti came from this country. Do you remember? Maybe there was no opportunity. The Shariputra didn't even ask any question, didn't got any opportunity to ask Akshobhya Buddha. Maybe Shariputra felt that, wow, Vimalakirti is already such a great being, then the Akshobhya Buddha must be even more than that. Then Shariputra asked, I saw them. Buddha asked Shariputra, did you see the wondrous joy world of Akshobhya Buddha? And Shariputra said, yes, I saw them. Oh, world honored one, I wish that every sentient being could attain a pure land like that of Akshobhya Buddha and attain the power of numinous penetration like Vimalakirti without anyone left behind. So he made such aspiration. First one, may this world be just like the wondrous joy world, and may the sentient beings just like Akshobhya Buddha, and may all beings attain the numinous penetration just like Vimalakirti. According to Master Kuiji, the next part, the next part, it should be said by the Buddha, but according to Master Sun Zhao and other masters said that this part is then expressed by the Shravaka. Why is that? Because when a Shravaka practitioner says it, then all the Hinayana practitioners would also willing to make such aspiration. If it were the Buddha Shakyamuni who expressed such opinion, or the Bodhisattva says it, then it won't make such an impact as intended. Just as when it comes to advising the students, sometimes they don't listen to the parents nor the teacher, but they would listen to their peers. Just like that, then this is then said by Shravaka instead of Bodhisattva or the Buddha, talking about the merit of this teaching. Over here, the priests are then made by Shravaka for this reason. So Shariputra then said, "World-honored one, we have quickly attained good benefit. So very happy, very much joyful, so lucky, very fortunate to receive the noble one's teaching." The noble one over here refers to Vimalakirti. And we have such an opportunity to meet this lay practitioner, this bodhisattva that comes from Wondrous Joy world, and have this opportunity to make offering to him directly. I feel very fortunate. So those sentient beings who hear the sutra, even now, while you're present, or after the Buddha's nirvana, will also attain good benefit. How much more so if, after hearing it, after devoutly understand, accept, recite, explain, and practice according to it. So according to the blessings of Shakyamuni Buddha, he understood the profound benefit of studying and listening this sutra. Also according to also rely on Vimalakirti's speech, then this sutra was then expressed, and this conversation was then made. After the teaching of, after the presence of Buddha, after 2,562 years of the presence of Buddha, the merit that we receive from hear this sutra is in fact immeasurable. Just as it is said in the Right Mindfulness Sutra, where it says that the riches gained by hearing the Dharma is foremost in the world. Loaded yet ignorant of the Dharma, one is regarded as poor. So we should really devoutly understand, accept, recite, chant, explain, and practice according to it. In the Tibetan text, as well as the Xuanzang's translation, it includes, in fact, 10 kinds of merit. The first one is devout understand. Second one is great faith. The third one is to accept. The fourth one is to carry it. Fifth is chant. Sixth one is profoundly understand. Seventh is explain. Eighth is to explain, and ninth one is to promote or propagate, and then the 10th one is practice according to it. Over here it has 6, but over in the Tibetan language edition as well as other editions, it includes 10 kinds of merit. Those who get hold of this sutra will attain the entire storehouse of Dharma jewel. You hit the jackpot. You've earned a great treasure out of no reason. Once you have this book, once you then keep this book properly, then you are the holder of a great treasure. If one reads, recites, explains its meaning, or practice according to its explanation, one will be protected and remembered by the Buddhas. How fortunate we are to have this opportunity to make offering to such a person who does all this. Understand that this is to make offering to the Buddha. The one who reads, who recites, who practices, who even carries the sutra, then this kind of person is no other than the Buddha. copy and maintain these physicals of scriptures, this text, understand that the Tathagata is present in this room. So when you have this book in your home, you already have the Tathagata in your room. This is something I want to address. It is quite important to be very respectful when you make offering to the Buddha. When I look at lots of practitioners' shrine desk, I see that it's quite cluttered. It's everywhere. The Buddha statue, the books, there are everywhere. I think maybe it's a matter of lack of aesthetic. Maybe you need to develop an eye for the beauty. If you have lots of things everywhere, you have the apple that's really small. You have the extremely big apple that covers the Buddha statue that's tiny and hiding behind the apple. Then, by common sense, you know that it's very cluttered. I went to some people's houses and went to their shrine rooms. I went to some different centers. Lots of the places are rather very good. And sometimes I think it's too cluttered. And sometimes you have too much stuff on the table. Do not then keep a crystal ball on top of your shrine, and put a book on it, and put all different kinds of things. Some Dharma teachers' classrooms are also like that over here. There are the ones who are more like hoarders. They would have different kinds of tonkas hanging on the wall, and they have the kinds of rubbish bins all over the place. It's not really dignified. You have to make sure that your shrine hall is very dignified. There are very good shrine rooms where the room is very dignified, it's very clean, and so on. And there are the ones where the different cushions are different, and there's a box here, there's a box there, there's clothing. Maybe they would put the kitchen in the same place, at the same place as the shrine, .
所以佛堂最好佛堂还是佛堂一样的。我们私人的佛堂跟私人的
Keep shrine desk and shrine rooms just as shrine rooms.
就是设计一下，就还是要
It is the best that you design it. It is good that you make a really dignified place where it inspires you to practice. Otherwise, without any sense of beauty, you just clutter everywhere. How is it going to inspire you at all? There are people who don't have any sense of beauty. Okay, I'm not going to elaborate or point out who it is. I'm not going to give you any names. Anyhow, it talks about where the sutra is. The Tathagata is present in that room. Those who hear the sutra and are able to become joyful accordingly will achieve omniscience. According to Xuanzang's version, as well as Qianlong Emperor's Tripitaka, it says that it will achieve omniscience and achieve merit, same as the Tibetan version. If one is able to devoutly understand this sutra, even just as a single four-phrase verse, that is a gatha, and explain it to others, understand that such a person will immediately receive a prediction of their future achievement of Anattara Samyuk Sambodhi. That person should be revered as the great offerer of the Dharma. So that sentence was included in Tibetan version and Xuanzang's version. version, that he makes great dharma offerings, practice great generosity of giving a dharma, and for such a person will then immediately receive a prediction in their future achievement of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore, this time, once you receive this sutra, the merit is great. You should be very joyful. And we will very soon have start the next two chapters, which are rather simple. I wanted to then make an announcement of dedication of merit of life releasing on my birthday. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you who released life. So there were then 469. There was 469,631,000 sentient beings who were then released. And the money that was spent was over 24 million RMB. I did not send the money for people to release life. I did not post any post. I only asked people to do as much as you can voluntarily. I, in fact, went to the charity foundation project to the schools. So I'm really happy that you released such number of lives. I'm very grateful that you did so, and I'm sure all these lives are very grateful to you as well, although it has not much to do with me because I did not set any life for free. Anyhow, I'd like to ask you to then dedicate merit together. The majority of you have already reported the number and the amount of money that you spend to then release life. And there are people who did not know how to send the money, the number in. Anyhow, for all of the life that were released, let's then dedicate the merit through the King of Aspiration after class.